What's good, everyone? This is Monaro and welcome to my channel. I know it's been a minute since I've uploaded one of these and I apologize for that, but let's continue going over chapters 49 to 59 and I hope you enjoy. Robb's host approaches the twins. Robb rides at the head with Catelyn, Edmure beside him, and Sir Raynaud bearing his banner. Catelyn cautions Robb again about offending Lord Frey and advises him to ask for food and wine as soon as they arrive to secure the guest rights. They are met by a contingent headed by Sir Ryman Frey, Lord Frey's grandson, and 3 of Ryman's sons, Edwin, Black Walder, and Peter. When they come near, Greywind begins to growl and leaps forward, causing Peter's horse to throw him. Sir Ryman is angered that Queen Jane is not among them, and Catelyn offers her apologies, but Black Walder says that Lord Walder will be displeased. The Freys tell them they have rooms prepared for Robb, Catelyn, and Edmure, and their bannermen at the water tower, but the army is to cross the bridge to the far end and join Lord Frey's and Lord Bolton's men beneath pavilions erected for the wedding. When they reach the gatehouse, Greywind refuses to continue and howls. Lame Lothar comes up, saying he must fear the water and offering to give him over to the Master of Hounds, but Robb has Sir Raynaud stay with him instead. Robb enters the great hall where Lord Walder and his 8th wife, Joyeuse, await. Lord Walder is relentless in his veiled insults against Robb, making it clear that the king betrayed him by breaking his solemn oath. Robb apologizes, and then Rosalind is brought out. She is by far the most beautiful of Walder's get. After Edmure meets his soon-to-be bride, Catelyn asks the Lord of the Crossing for some food, and he says, "Bread and salt." "Of course." And the old man welcomes them as guests to his table. When Lord Bolton joins them, Robb finds out more of what happened at Winterfell, and his bannerman tells him that Ramsay rescued many of the women and has been fighting the Ironmen. Lord Bolton again states that his bastard son's blood is tainted, but maybe his deeds will atone for the crimes he committed. He tells them that Ramsay is holding Theon hostage, and he shows them a piece of Greyjoy's skin, his son having been flaying the captive Greyjoy. Bolton explains that as Balon Greyjoy's sole surviving son, Theon's uncles, Victarion, Euron, and Aeron, will want him dead as his claim to the Seastone chair is greater than theirs, and that they can demand concessions from the Ironborn as the price of Theon's execution. Robb reluctantly agrees for Theon to remain imprisoned at the Dreadfort. Bolton lost men crossing the Trident when Gregor Clegane's army attacked. Bolton has brought mostly his own and Karstark men, leaving all the others to guard the Trident. Sandor and Arya arrive at the twins, where Sandor hopes to ransom Arya to her family. To get there, the Hound had robbed a farmer of his wagon and cask to disguise themselves as simple farmers who have come to bring pork to the feast. The castle is closed, so they are sent to the pavilions instead, where the common soldiers are. Arya recognizes a few coat of arms, but there is nobody she knows. The soldiers drink to the health of Queen Jane, whose name is unfamiliar to Arya. As Sandor wants to ransom Arya, they head to the castle. Catelyn listens to the continuous pounding noise of the drums the musicians in the hall are playing. She is seated between Ryman Frey and Roose Bolton during the wedding feast. She remarks to herself how joyless the wedding is and watches as Robb dances with several of the Frey maids and Edmure dotes on his soon-to-be wife Rosalind. Catelyn becomes more wary when she learns that Olyvar, Perwyn, and Alysandra Frey are all not in attendance at the wedding. She notices Merritt Frey trying to drink the Great John under the table, and finally, Lord Walder Frey calls for the bedding. Robb does not participate as the Great John carries a weeping Rosalind to the bedchamber. Suddenly, Things grow more ominous in the hall as Daisy Mormont goes up to Edwin Frey and asks him if he wants to dance, but he pushes her away violently. The musicians begin to play a new song, which Catelyn recognizes to her horror as the Rains of Castamere, and sees Edwin leaving. She takes off after him, and when she grabs his arm, she feels the rings of chainmail beneath. Suddenly, it all makes sense to her. The Freys missing from the wedding and Rosalind crying. The musicians turn out to be crossbowmen, and the wedding becomes a slaughter. Catelyn watches in horror as a crossbow bolt pierces Robb's shoulder and another his leg, and he topples over. Small John throws a table over him to save him from 3 more bolts. Robb and Flint is surrounded by Freys, their daggers rising and falling. Sir Wendell Manderly is felled by a quarrel through the mouth. Small John bludgeons Sir Raymond Frey across the face with a leg of mutton, but when he reaches for his sword belt, a crossbow bolt drives him to his knees. Lucas Blackwood is cut down by Sir Hostine Frey. One of the Vances is hamstrung by Blackwalder as he wrestles with Sir Harris Hay. Crossbows take Donald Locke, Owen Norrie, and half a dozen more. Young Sir Benfrey Frey seizes Daisy Mormont by the arm, who smashes him in the face with a wine flagon. She runs for the door, but Sir Ryman comes through with Frey men at arms and sinks his axe into Daisy's stomach. Northmen begin pouring through the other door, and Catelyn takes them for rescue for half a heartbeat until one of them decapitates Small John. Catelyn realizes that she must try to intervene and save her son's life. She sees a dagger on the floor and crawls towards it, determined to kill Lord Walder. Then Robb stumbles to his feet, an arrow in his chest in addition to the other 2. Lord Walder, who, in the midst of the slaughter, sits on his throne watching greedily, signals a halt to the music and mocks Robb. Catelyn grabs Jingle Bell Frey and puts a dagger to the half-wit's throat. She begs Walder to spare her son, trade a son for a son. But the old man says, "That's a grandson, and he never was much use." A man in dark armor and pale pink cloak spotted with blood steps up to Robb, saying, "Jaime Lannister sends his regards." He thrusts his longsword through Robb's heart and twists. Catelyn keeps her promise and slits the poor half-wit's throat, and then begins to laugh and shout while someone says, "She's lost her wits." Someone else says, "Make an end." She is grabbed from behind and feels steel drawn across her own throat. Arya and Sandor try to reach the castle. Arya notices that the gate is opened and armed riders are beginning to come out from the castle towards the pavilions where the Stark host is celebrating the wedding. She hears a wolf howling and music she faintly recognizes. The pavilions that the Stark hosts are celebrating in have been rigged to collapse. The riders from the castle attack the Northmen, collapsing the pavilions and setting them on fire. Arya and the Hound are spotted by the Frey men and have to defend themselves. Arya wants to go to the castle where her mother and her brother are, but the Hound tells her they are already dead. Arya tries to run to the castle, but the Hound rides her down, bringing his great axe down upon her head. Tyrion and Sansa spend a joyless meal together, with both not talking much. Sansa takes a joke Tyrion makes about the quality of the food as him criticizing her, but he assures her that it's not her fault and that he has more serious matters to worry about. Besides Joffrey, Cersei, and his father, what bothers him most are the 300 Dornishmen visiting for the king's wedding. He has settled them in a corner fort of the Red Keep, as far away from the Tyrells as possible, yet there has already been a brawl between Tyrell and Gargolin soldiers at Flea Bottom, leaving one dead, and a confrontation in the yard where Olenna Redwine called Ilaria Sand the Serpent's Whore, while Oberyn Martell keeps asking for justice concerning the death of his sister Elia and her children every time he sees Tyrion. However, Tyrion sees no point in bothering his already troubled young wife with any of this. After the meal, Sansa asks for leave for her nightly visit to the Godswood. Although Tyrion finds Sansa's piety excessive, he allows it, even offering to accompany her sometime. She immediately objects to this, telling him he would be bored, as praying to the old gods is mainly done in silence without adornments. She knows him better than he imagined, he thinks. He is tempted to ask what she prays for, but is afraid of what the answer would be. He gets back to his tedious task as master of coin, trying to make sense of some of the complicated numbers in the ledgers Peter Baelish left him. He considers some of Littlefinger's investments highly suspicious. Tyrion now regrets that he consented so easily to the execution of the Antlermen, as he has since learned that some of them owed the crown large sums, and suspects that having Bronn try locating their heirs will be a futile effort. Sir Boris Blount arrives, delivering a summons from Lord Tywin. Tyrion is glad to leave the books. Outside, rain is in the air, making Tyrion concerned Sansa will get soaked at the Godswood. When he arrives at the Hands Solar, he finds King Joffrey, Queen Regent Cersei, Sir Kevin, and Grand Maester Pycelle there as well, besides his father. Joffrey is obliviously elated, Cersei smiles smugly, yet Lord Tywin is his usual grim self, and Tyrion wonders whether his father can smile at all. Tyrion asks what has happened, and is shown a roll of parchment. The message reads, "Rosalind caught a fine fat trout. Her brother gave her a pair of wolf pelts for her wedding." Checking the seal, Tyrion realizes that the message comes from the twins. He asks whether Lord Walder thinks he is being poetic. He realizes that trout refers to Edmure Tully, but before he can speculate on the meaning of the pair of wolf pelts, Joffrey announces that the message implies that Robb Stark is dead. Tyrion's thoughts immediately drift to his wife, probably praying this very moment to her father's gods for her brother's victory and her mother's safety. It seems that neither the old nor the new gods are listening to prayer, Tyrion thinks, wondering whether this should give him some comfort. He makes a glib comment about the kings falling like leaves this autumn and their little war winning itself, prompting a poisonally sweet reply by Cersei that it is in fact Lord Tywin who won the war. Lord Tywin doesn't consider the war over as long as enemies are in the field, yet Cersei is optimistic that the lords of the Riverlands, confronted with the combined powers of Highgarden, Casterly Rock, and Dorne without the Northmen to support them, will choose submission over destruction now. Lord Tywin agrees that most will, except for Riverrun, and probably Seaguard and Raventree Hall. However, Brynden Tully won't dare to become a threat as long as Lord Frey keeps his nephew Edmure as hostage, and the Freys can keep Jason Mallister penned up at his seat while Jonas Blacken might be bribed to change allegiance and attack the Blackwoods. In the end, everyone will bend their knees, Tywin predicts, and he is ready to offer generous terms. He is going to spare every castle except one. Tyrion assumes that the exception will be Harrenhal, which Lord Tywin confirms, announcing that he has already commanded Sir Gregor Clegane to attack the castle and rid the realm of the brave companions. Tyrion is amused about his father exploiting the mountain before he will be handed over to the Martells, yet the prospect of Littlefinger soon being able to take his seat at Harrenhal doesn't please him. He wonders whether Lord Baelish has already arrived at the Vale, wishing his ship sank instead. King Joffrey doesn't agree with the generous terms, insisting that all traitors should be executed instead. He wants Lord Walder to send him Robb Stark's head so that he can serve it to Sansa at his wedding feast. Sir Kevin is shocked and reminds him that Sansa is now his aunt by marriage. Cersei tries to dismiss his statement, calling it a jest, yet Joffrey insists. Tyrion angrily tells Joffrey that he can't torture Sansa any longer, calling him a monster, to which Joffrey replies that Tyrion is the true monster. Tyrion counters that Joffrey should be concerned then, as monsters are dangerous and kings are dying like flies already. Joffrey and Cersei are furious about Tyrion's threat, but Lord Tywin scolds Joffrey instead, advising him that a king who feels the need to remind people of his power is no true king. King Aerys never understood that, Lord Tywin said, as proven by his habit of having the tongues of people like Sir Ilan Payne ripped out. But Joffrey will. It's necessary to fight your enemies, but if they yield, generosity is the right approach. Lord Tywin closes by telling Joffrey that the only head he should be concerned about right now is Margaery Tyrell's maidenhead. Joffrey is sullen, then surprises everyone in the room by defying Lord Tywin, accusing him of having been afraid of King Aerys. Tyrion thinks that things just got interesting. Cersei demands that Joffrey apologize to his grandfather, yet he goes on, recounting how it was Robert Baratheon who fought Prince Rhaegar and won the crown while Lord Tywin hid at Casterly Rock. A strong king acts boldly, he states. Lord Tywin is not amused, thanking the king coldly for sharing his wisdom. He asks Sir Kevin to escort Joffrey to his bedchamber and Pycelle to give him some dream wine, completely ignoring Joffrey's protests. As Sir Kevin firmly guides Joffrey out and Pycelle follows, Tyrion and Cersei remain on their father's orders. Cersei tries to apologize for Joffrey's behavior, calling him willful. Lord Tywin thinks Joffrey is more stupid than willful and asks who put the idea into the boy's head that strong kings act boldly. Tyrion, glad to bring up that comment again, confirms that the part about Tywin hiding in Casterly Rock sounded like something Robert would say. Cersei tries to play into this, but Lord Tywin is upset that he might have fought a war to seat Robert II on the Iron Throne when Cersei has been assuring him that the boy cared nothing for his father. He doesn't, Cersei insists, recounting how Robert cared nothing for his son, would have beaten the boy if he could, and hit him so hard once that Joffrey lost 2 teeth, causing her to threaten Robert to kill him if he hit him again. Lord Tywin tells his daughter to leave, which she does seethingly. Tyrion proposes that, rather than following his father's footsteps, Joffrey will become Aerys III. Lord Tywin responds that he is only 13 and still has time to grow, yet Tyrion notices that his father is more upset than he wants to show. Lord Tywin announces that Joffrey needs a hard lesson, reminding Tyrion of the hard lesson his father gave him when he was the same age, which almost makes him feel sorry for Joffrey. However, Tyrion can't think of anyone who deserves it more than Joffrey. Tyrion gets back to the business of war. He congratulates his father, asking him how long he had been plotting with Lord Walder. Lord Tywin objects to his son's choice of words. Tyrion retorts that he doesn't enjoy being left in the dark. His father explains that nobody was told who didn't play a part in the execution, including Cersei, stressing how important it is to keep secrets, especially in King's Landing. He wanted to get rid of a dangerous enemy as cheaply as possible, he announces, also suggesting that, while Tyrion has some talent for cunning, he simply talks too much, and his loose tongue will be his undoing one day. Tyrion jests that he should have let Joffrey rip his tongue out then, and Lord Tywin says he shouldn't tempt him. The discussion moves on to the Dornish issue. Lord Tywin considers the presence of Oberyn Martell unfortunate, describing him as half-mad while he believes Doran Martell to be a reasoned man who weighs the consequences of words and actions. Tyrion asks whether it is true that Oberyn tried to continue the war on behalf of Viserys Targaryen. Lord Tywin confirms it, recounting how Jon Arryn's negotiation with Prince Doran in Sunspear put an end to the conspiracy, with both sides deciding to remain silent about the issue afterwards, but distrust between King Robert and House Martell remained. Tyrion proposes that showing Oberyn around in the brothels of the city could ease the Red Viper's impatience, jesting that he won't be accused of not serving House Lannister where he is needed most. Lord Tywin finds this comment very droll and asks whether Tyrion wants motley to be sewn for him, prompting Tyrion's question as to whether he would be allowed to say anything he wants about King Joffrey if he wore it. Lord Tywin declares that, while he had to suffer his father's follies, he won't suffer his son's. Tyrion is more serious now, predicting that Oberyn will not be pleasant, nor satisfied with only receiving Gregor Clegane's head. Lord Tywin reveals that he has no intention of sacrificing the mountain, as he has served House Lannister well, and nobody is dreaded as much by their enemies. Tyrion is shocked. He thought that he and his father agreed that the woods are full of beasts and that even Sir Gregor is disposable. He points out that Oberyn knows it was the mountain who killed his sister and her children. Oberyn knows nothing and has no proof, Lord Tywin replies. He merely heard rumors and Sir Gregor is not likely to confirm them, in particular as Tywin will keep him away for as long as the Dornishmen are in the city. If Oberyn raises the issue, Lord Tywin will claim the murderer as Sir Omri Lorch, and the tale of Sir Omri's gruesome death by the hands of a bear set on him by Vargo Hoat would even appease Oberyn, he expects. Tyrion objects to his father's sense of justice, but Tywin tells him that it was in fact Sir Omri who found and killed Rhaegar's daughter, Rhaenys, also revealing that the child's mother and baby brother Aegon were in the nursery below at the time. When Tyrion asks what he was going to tell Oberyn if he requires who gave the orders for the murders, Lord Tywin answers that Sir Omri acted on his own in an attempt to win the favor of the new king, as Robert's hatred of Rhaegar was well known. Thinking about it, Tyrion has to concede that this version might serve its purpose, although he suspects that the Red Viper will not be happy. Tyrion's suggestion that it would have been better for his father to let Robert commit the murders himself prompts an astonished Lord Tywin to share his reasoning at the time of the sack of King's Landing. He explains that they came late to Robert's cause, so they had to demonstrate their loyalty. When Tywin laid the bodies at the throne, it was clear they had forsaken House Targaryen, and Robert was clearly relieved, knowing that Rhaegar's children had to die for his throne to be secure, but not wanting to kill them himself. Tywin admits that it was done too brutally, and Elia did not need to be harmed. The mountain only killed her because Tywin did not tell him to spare her. Tywin asserts that at the time, he had greater concerns than the Dornish princess. Ned Stark's van was rushing south from the Trident, and Tywin feared coming to battle with him, as well as the possibility of Aerys murdering Jaime purely out of spite. That, and what Jaime himself might do. He also did not know what Gregor Clegane was capable of, only that he was huge and terrible in battle. He did not command Clegane to rape Elia, and Sir Omri was almost as bestial with Rhaenys. When Tywin asked Sir Omri why it had required 50 thrusts to kill a girl of 2 or 3, he claimed she kicked him and would not stop screaming. He states that if Lorch had had any wits, he would have calmed her with a few sweet words and used a soft silk pillow. Tyrion asks whether it was a soft, sweet pillow that killed Robb Stark. Lord Tywin reveals that the plan was to kill Robb at his uncle's wedding with an arrow, as he was too circumspect in the field. Tyrion inquires about the fate of Robb's mother. Lord Tywin suspects that the reference to a pair of wolf pelts in Lord Walder's message implies that Lady Catelyn is dead too. The original idea was to keep her as captive, but maybe something went wrong, he suggests. Tyrion points out that the sacred guest right has been violated. Lord Tywin replies, "The blood is on Walder Frey's hand, not mine." Tyrion, describing him as an ill-natured old lecher who nourishes the slights he suffered over his long life, says he has no doubt that Lord Walder has planned the whole thing. He would never have dared to go through with it if he hadn't been given the promise of protection. Tywin counters that refusing him would have meant keeping him loyal to Robb Stark and prolonging the war. He considers the price that was paid low. The crown will grant Riverrun to Aemon Frey as soon as the Blackfish yields, while Lancel and Devon Lannister have to marry Frey girls, and Gerion Lannister's bastard daughter Joy will be wedded to one of Lord Walder's natural sons once she is old enough. Roose Bolton becomes Warden of the North, and his bastard son will marry Arya Stark. The revelation that Lord Bolton was involved in the conspiracy is not particularly surprising to Tyrion, as Lord Walder probably had not the stomach to act alone. However, he's baffled about the role assigned to Arya, and points out that neither Varys nor Sir Jacelyn Bywater were able to locate the girl, thus he is sure she is dead. Lord Tywin replies, "So was Renly, until the Blackwater." Tyrion doesn't understand what this means. Lord Tywin replies that Littlefinger might have succeeded where Tyrion and Varys failed. He suggests that the Boltons shall be fighting the Ironborn for a few years while the Crown will keep an eye on their efforts to subjugate the Stark's other bannermen. Lord Tywin expects that the remaining insurgents will be ready to yield by spring, also pointing out that the North will eventually go to the son of Tyrion and Sansa. In this context, he reminds Tyrion that Joffrey is not the only one who must take a maidenhead. Tyrion asks his father acidly when he believes his wife to be most fertile, before or after he tells her that the Lannisters have killed her mother and brother. Salladhor Saan tells King Stannis Baratheon of the Red Wedding how the Freys sewed the head of Robb Stark's direwolf Grey Wind on the king's shoulders and nailed a crown on its head. Catelyn Stark was slain and thrown naked into the river. Queen Selyse and Axel Florent declare it was the hand of R'hllor that killed the usurpers, but Stannis knows it was Lord Walder Frey's handiwork. When Stannis wants to send word that he will pardon any Iron Man or Northman who swears fealty, Melisandre tells him that in her flames reveal the new kings will pick up where the old ones died. The Seven Kingdoms must be shown a sign, but Stannis has heard enough talk of stone dragons, knowing all of the follies the Targaryens caused by trying to return the dragons to life. Davos Seaworth persuades the king by asking Melisandre why she needs Edric Storm's life to raise the stone dragons. He also inquires how her leeches were responsible for two kings' deaths when one was killed by Walder Frey and the other, Balon Greyjoy, fell from a bridge. He also points out that only 2 of the 3 false kings are dead so far. The Red Woman has answers, but Stannis stands her away. Still not completely satisfied that he should spare Edric's life, the king sends Davos away as well. The Onion Knight seeks out Maester Pylos, who has been teaching him how to read. Davos begins to slowly read a letter that arrived some time before from the Wall. The missive speaks of Lord Jorah Mormont's defeat at the Fist and Maester Aemon's fear that the wildlings may conquer the Wall. Pylos reveals that he showed the letter to Alistair, but the king and Melisandre are not aware of the warning's existence. The remaining members of the Night's Watch from Castle Black and several people from Molestown man the wall as Mance's army approaches. As the Watch repels attack after attack from their great vantage point, some of the wildlings have reached the gate. To his surprise, Jon is left in command as Donal Noy leaves to defend the gate. Jon orders fire arrows and oil casts dropped on the giants and mammoths, and the defenders once again repel the wildling attack. In the aftermath of the fighting, Jon goes down into the gate tunnel to find Donal Noy dead alongside Mag the Mighty. When Jon tells Maester Aemon the news, the ancient Maester tells him that he must lead the watch now. Reaching the Night Fort, Bran recalls all the horror tales he's heard about this castle, such as the stories of the Rat Cook, Mad Axe, and the Night's King. Before it was abandoned by the Watch, some 200 years before, the Night Fort had once been the greatest castle along the Wall. However, Mira and Jojen Reed are unafraid of the ancient castle. They sleep that night in the kitchens, near a seemingly bottomless well. Deep in the night, Bran is woken by footsteps coming from the well. He awakens Mira and then takes control of Hodor's body as he does when he enters summer. But it is only Sam and Gilly who emerge from the well, carrying Gilly's infant son. Gilly asks them if they are the ones Cold Hands was sent to find, but Bran has no idea what she is speaking of. Mira asks them how they got past the wall, and Sam reveals that Cold Hand had led them to the Black Gate, which only a brother of the Night's Watch can open. Sam describes Cold Hands as dressed in all black like a sworn brother, but his skin and the cold from his body reminded Sam of a white. But Cold Hands could speak, his eyes did not turn blue, and he and his ravens had saved them from the whites. When the Reeds inquire why Cold Hands wasn't with them, Sam tells them that the wall was more than just ice and stone. There were ancient spells woven into it, and the wall could not let Cold Hands pass. Jojen tells Sam that Bran is the one Cold Hands seeks. Tarly realizes who Bran is, but promises not to tell anyone of Bran's whereabouts, on his honor and his friendship with Jon. Jojen has Sam bring them to the Black Gate, which is an ancient white weirwood growing beneath the wall and the night fort. The face of the weirwood speak, and Sam answers by reciting his oath. The weirwood permits them to pass by opening its mouth, and as Bran and the others leave Sam behind, the boy feels a drop of water fall on him, a drop as salty as a tear. Meereen is enclosed by a great wall with hundreds of defenders to guard it. Daenerys' huge army consists mostly of freed slaves. They are eating up the surrounding lands, and Daenerys realizes that she must claim the city before the army starves. Aware that storming the walls will cost her a great deal, Daenerys sends strong Belwas to dispatch the hero of Meereen. Belwas kills Osnak Zopal, but the city still stands strong. Brown Ben Plum reveals a way into the city through the sewers and finds out that Dany's dragons seem to like Brown Ben and perch on his shoulder when he visits. Daenerys, however, finds herself drawn to Daario Naharis and keeps thinking of his blue eyes. Later, she goes off with Arstan and Missandei to visit the camps, and there she is attacked by Mero of Braavos. Arstan kills the Titan's bastard with his staff alone, and when Dany reaches her pavilion, Jorah is shocked to learn that a squire with a staff could beat Mero with such ease. Arstan reveals that he is actually a knight, and Jorah finally recognizes him as Barristan the Bold. Barristan apologizes for deceiving her and swears his sword in her service. Jorah wants her not to accept the man, for he went over to Robert after the trident. But Barristan reveals that Jorah has spied on her on behalf of Varys and the small council in hopes of gaining a royal pardon. Jorah pleads that he did so only at first, but he has been loyal to her since the birth of the dragons. Daenerys, disgusted, dismisses them both. She doesn't want them in her service anymore. When she wonders where to send them, she suddenly has an idea. Tyrion is lying in bed beside his wife. Dreadful details of the Red Wedding have reached King's Landing about how the Freys mutilated the corpse of Robb Stark and Catelyn Tully. Tyrion has tried to keep those stories from Sansa and wants to comfort her, but he knows she will never take comfort from a Lannister. He leaves to visit Shae in the room where the dragon skulls are kept, but he remembers his recent conversation with Varys. The eunuch warned him that if confronted by the queen, he would tell her the truth about Shae. Tyrion realizes that if he is to save Shae, he must either send her away or marry her off. After she pleases him, he decides that he will marry her to Sir Tallard, and Cersei will never think to find out who she is. She has learned from Tyrion the fate of her brother and mother at the Red Wedding. She and her husband join many other guests at the Queen's ballroom to give Joffrey his wedding gifts. It is a new year, the 300th since Aegon's conquest, and Joffrey's wedding is that night. Tyrion presents his nephew with a copy of Grand Maester's case Lives of Four Kings, one of only 4 copies in existence written by Caith himself. Kevin tells the king it is a book every king should read. Joffrey is disappointed with the gift and hacks the book in half with the Valyrian sword his grandfather had just given to him. Joffrey remarks that he is no stranger to Valyrian steel, and also that Tyrion owes him another gift. Tyrion suggests a Valyrian dagger with a dragon bolt hilt, which seems to unsettle Joffrey for a moment before he says it is a good idea, but wants one with a gold hilt instead. Later, back in their rooms, Sansa tells Tyrion that she would rather not know how Robb and her mother had perished, and Tyrion promises that he will say no more. Well, that's it, everyone. Thank you for stopping by and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to come back for more. Again, thank you for watching. Bye.